Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl. I have no idea how this is gonna sound. I've never used this microphone before, so this is new for me. Also super weird. I can't listen to anything with my headphones, but I also can't turn them off. It's like that room that scientists invented to do sound experiments in, where you go in and after 45 minutes you've lost completely your mind. So if you're wondering why I'm using a horrible microphone and I'm in my bed, it's because I'm in some pretty serious period pain. It's no big deal, but it is extremely painful, and I can't really get up. I was supposed to be working on editing the new Porgy and Bess video today, but I am obviously not doing that. I am stuck in bed, waiting for my painkillers to kick in, and I figured, why don't I show that I have depths by talking about something other than opera? like musicals. I'm very brave. Hold your applause. I want to talk about Jesus Christ Superstar, which only really came about because I was talking to my friend Des about Phantom of the Opera. She told me that she enjoyed the film adaptation of Phantom, and I was like, no, you can't do that. you actually can't do that. And she was like, I can do whatever I want to. I'm an adult. I do not enjoy the film adaptation of Phantom. I don't know if that was obvious from the setup of that joke. I mean, major technical issues aside, it has the problem that like most film adaptations of musicals do, which is just that nobody can sing and nobody seems to care that nobody can sing. This is my problem with a lot of film musicals, and it's the reason that I mostly don't watch them despite hypothetically being a music person. Usually the actors who are in them are hired because they have star power, which is the reason that most actors are hired for most films, which is fine for most films. But when it comes to musicals, those people need to sing, and they need to be, like, good at singing. And for the most part, they're not. They took some music lessons for the film, but they're not musicians, which is fine for 99% of the audience in America and shouldn't really hypothetically matter, except that I basically spent like 5 years of my adult life being given video and audio of highly trained musicians performing at the highest level and being told, okay, listen to this performance of theirs and find all the problems with it. Like as homework, like for a grade. And that just fundamentally changed the way I interacted with music for a couple years. I make a lot of jokes about how I'm a music snob, but like I literally did have to take a break from listening to music for like a year because the way that I was approaching it was no longer healthy, because all I cared about was, well, I can find flaws in this performance, so it's not very good. It's like, okay, yeah, Diana Damrau did have to take a breath during one of the hardest runs in opera history. What a terrible error. What a sin. It affected the way that I listened to music. It affected the way that I engaged with music, and I had to take a break. So I took a break from studying music for a year, and then I was like, okay, and then I'm gonna go to Tampa, and I'm gonna pursue music professionally there. And then the pandemic hit. Yay! Anyway, this is a long way of saying that I don't like the Phantom film. I mean, I dislike the Phantom film for a lot of reasons, technical and musical, but when talking to most people, it is easier to say they didn't hire anyone with any musical training, and that really affects the quality of the show for me, than it is to say, like, the cinematography is bad. The film looks bad to look at. So anyway, my friend Des was like, well, I don't care because I didn't go to music school for 5 years, so it really doesn't matter to me if the music is perfect or not. And I was like, okay, but it's really bad. And she's like, it doesn't matter to me. That doesn't affect the way that I enjoy things. And I was like, please let me change your mind. Please let me show you the 25th anniversary stage production. It's really good, and it has musicians who are adults. Oh my God, the thing that drives me craziest about this movie is that the actor for Christine was like 17 years old. It's not appropriate. Christine is one of the hardest roles in Broadway, and they were just like, yeah, we'll just give it to a 17-year-old. And also, the film is like weirdly sexual in a way that the stage show is not. How old is Gerard Butler in this film? There was no reason for Christine to be a literal child, to be played by a child. It's inappropriate. And then they're gonna have Gerard Butler touch her like this? It's gross. Like, I don't blame her for not being able to handle this repertoire. Most people can't. Most adults can't. Her voice is not physically developed enough yet to play this role. And they did it because, why? Because Hollywood wants to sexualize literal children? Anyway, so I was like, I would prefer to show you an adaptation where the music is good. And Des was like, it really doesn't affect me, but this seems to really bother you, so let's watch it. However, I don't really want to watch this, and you are making me do it, and I am agreeing to it because we are friends. But in exchange, you must watch Jesus Christ Superstar, because I had never seen Jesus Christ Superstar. Yeah, remember how I said I actually do care about musicals? That was a big ol' lie. I was like, how can you care about Jesus Christ Superstar and not care about Phantom? And she was like, well, Andrew Lloyd Webber is like problematic as fuck, so legally you're only allowed to like one of his musicals, so Jesus Christ Superstar is mine. And I was like, okay, that's fair. There's not a lot of strong competition, to be honest, so. But I had never watched it before. I have watched Godspell before, which is a musical that came out the same year with a very similar premise. For some reason, I thought Godspell came out the decade before Jesus Christ Superstar, and then Jesus Christ Superstar kind of stole the idea of Godspell, but released it with like hard rock instead of basically like watered down church music, which is what Godspell has going for it. Very like hippy dippy, clap your hands if you believe that we are flower children and we can all make a way together in this future kind of way. But no, they came out the same year. They were in production at the same time, and they hit Broadway the same year, and they both ran for a similar period of time for their initial run. So they're actually contemporaries, which did make me feel like kind of an asshole for unnecessarily pitting them against each other like that in my mind. Because I do like Godspell, and part of the reason that I never watched Jesus Christ Superstar is because I like Godspell so much, and I find it so charming and so sweet, and so unapologetically kitschy and silly.
Hello? It's for you.
So we watched this one. I don't remember which one it is during time of recording, but I'll just research it and look it up. I really had never been exposed to any of the music in Jesus Christ Superstar. I had heard the high note in Gethsemane, and that was about it. That was about the limit of my knowledge. The show starts with Heaven on Their Minds, which is the song that fucks the hardest in the entire show, and Tim Minchin rolled out as Judas and started hitting us with that like, my mind is clearer now, as the guitar is like going crazy, and I was like, oh, I think I like this show. So Jesus Christ Superstar, if you're not familiar, I'm not going to recap the plot. It's the gospel. But it is weirdly the gospel as according to Judas. That's not the explicit stated purpose, but that's basically what's going on. There are like 3 named characters in Jesus's crew. Jesus is there, Judas is there, and Mary is there. And that's about it. Other apostles get mentioned, but they're not really like important. It's mostly about Judas and his relationship with Jesus as things start to fall apart, because he doesn't really believe in the divinity aspect of Jesus's teachings. He just believes in the like actionable stuff that Jesus is preaching about, and he doesn't like that Jesus has sort of left the realm of helping people and entered the realm of being like a cult of personality. He's uncomfortable with this. And a lot of the musical is about Judas and his personal discomfort. And then very close to the end of the show, he dies. I don't know if you know about the gospel, but he gets some money for betraying his best friend, and it destroys him more so to receive the money for having betrayed his best friend than betraying his best friend himself. But he realizes what he's done, and he can't live with himself, so he kills himself. But then he comes back for the final number, which is the titular. That's actually Judas's number, which I did not realize. And it is happening as Jesus is being put on the cross to die. And this show omits the moment of divinity completely, which I think is a very interesting choice, and certainly cements that whole, this is the gospel as told by Judas, who died before the moment of divinity by choosing to betray Jesus. It was something that he was never privy to. There's some theology, there's some argument about how he can never attain a heavenly afterlife because he kills himself before heaven is invented by Christianity coming into being. That's a very Catholic understanding of how heaven works. And also my understanding is they've rescinded that. Yeah, the Catholic Church had to walk back the whole, if you don't get baptized, you go straight to hell thing. It's no longer a good look. But anyway, so Des is sort of explaining to me, because this is sort of from the perspective of Judas, when he comes back at the end after he's died, he's obviously come back from some afterlife. What the costuming department decides to do with Judas at that point is usually very interesting. It's a choice that the costuming department makes. Do they put him in like white clothes and angelic clothes and kind of imply that he's gone to heaven? Or do they put him in dark or red clothes to imply that, you know, he's gone to hell and he's being tortured there? Des is explaining this to me as he's like coming down from the bars where like Jesus is being hung up to dry and is like in agony in the background while Judas is like, Jesus Christ, superstar, which is like a very odd tone to end your show on, Mr. Weber. I assume you won't be taking any points from me because I am a homosexual who you hate. So this is kind of an interesting production because they don't seem to have made a choice. He's sort of in these neutral clothes. He's in a different outfit than he was in before, but they're not really heavenly clothes and they're not really like I'm being tortured in hell clothes. They're just like, it's just a different outfit. We're kind of chatting at this point because we're both interested in Christian theology. I was like, oh, maybe they made the choice to have him be more of the classic interpretation of Satan. Satan was originally Hebrew for not like evil one or tempter, but like basically a lawyer who's like cross-examining you, putting Job and then later, you know, the Christ on trial, and he's, you know, creating all of these tests that have to be passed, preparing a case. So you actually have to prove yourself in some way. And so we were talking about this. We're like, oh, maybe this is the decision they've decided to go with Judas, where he's not actually an evil entity. He's a tester of some way. He's been sent by God to like test Jesus. As he's descending and he's doing his little routine and he's singing his song, I'm looking at the screen and I'm watching Judas and I'm like, hey, wait a second. I've seen that fit before in a different color palette, but I have seen that outfit before because the outfit that Judas reappears in at the end of this production of Jesus Christ Superstar is not a particularly heavenly or a particularly hellish outfit. It is the same outfit that Judas wears in the film adaptation of Godspell.
Some men are born liberties, doing what they please, richer than the bees are in honey. Never growing old, never feeling cold, pulling pots of gold from thin air.
You thought I was just adding that detail at the beginning for fun. No, it was relevant. I was teasing you. I was foreshadowing. This outfit is just the fit that a different Judas wears in a different adaptation of this story, which came out the same year as the original Jesus Christ Superstar. And I'm sitting there having this revelation. What Judas comes back wearing at the end of Jesus Christ Superstar, that is a statement. That is the designer saying something about what they think Judas's role in the show is. Because like one of the main arguments that Jesus Christ Superstar as a show makes is that Judas is not evil. He does the, you know, bad things that he does out of a sense of concern for the life of his best friend, but ultimately ends up destroying him and destroying his life. That's not his intention. He doesn't want to do that. It is a mistake, and that's why so many productions make the choice to give him divine forgiveness and have him go to heaven. But the choice to put him in the outfit of another Judas has very odd implications to me. Making this costuming choice implies that Judas, after his death, will return to being Judas. After he is done being Judas here, he must go on and repeat the cycle in a different universe or under different conditions. Honestly, the implications of that have sat with me for several months now. I not the first and will not be the last to point out that Jesus Christ Superstar puts Jesus and Judas in a borderline romantic relationship, an obsession with each other, and that Judas's entire storyline and all of his story beats revolve almost exclusively around his relationship with Jesus, the love that he has for him and the mistakes that he makes in attempting to love him as he deserves to be loved, and the way that betraying someone that you love destroys you completely. And so then to be reincarnated into another life where you are still you, and you must betray your best friend over and over again, possibly for eternity. Is that some kind of inherent judgment on the role that Judas plays in the gospel? Or is it an extremely specific and extremely fitting form of hell? Happy Easter! Anyway, it was a pretty good adaptation. It's super weird that they decided to auto-tune everyone. Apparently Tim Minchin was real pissed about it. Also, I just realized that in frame for pretty much the entire video has been my scrunchy pile of shame. Look, I get to the end of the day and my hair is still in a scrunchie and I don't have time to do anything with it. So I take it off and I put it in this cubby and assume that I'll remember to do something with them later. And I never do.